everyone, in this video we are going to discuss how to read the contents of a file in Python programming language. In the previous video I explained how to create a file, how to open a file and how to close a file and what are the various file opening modes. Now please watch that video before coming to this video. In this video, we are going to discuss three important functions provided in Python to read the contents of a file, as well as one another non-function method to read the contents of the file. If you want to read the content of a file, first the file should be opened in read mode. So when you are opening a file with read mode or mode R, then the file will be opened in read mode. Otherwise, if you omit the mode, then by default it will be opened in read mode. Now, after opening the read mode or after opening the file in read mode, this open function will return a handle to your file as a return value. Thus, that file handle or file object is going to be used to read the contents of your file. Now let us discuss the three functions provided by Python to read the contents of a file. The first function is read of n or simply read, and read is called by the handle of the file with the parameter n, where this n is the number of bytes you want to read from the file. This n is an optional parameter. That means if you are omitting that, then the entire file content will be retrieved or read from the file. Now let me assume that I am having one file in my system that is named pledge. So it's a text file. It's a text file with the name pledge. I want to read the content of this file. So this file contains three sentences. India is my country. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. And I love my country and its rich and varied heritage. So this is the content of this file. Now I want to read the content of the file through Python read function. So what I want to do, as I told you, first I want to call the open function. So open of, then this open function is accepting one parameter or two parameters. One is the name of the file or the location of the file or path of the file. How can I get the path of the file? So let me go back to my file and right click, and if I open the properties, there I can see the location of my file in a path format. Let me copy this and paste it into my open function, right? So it's a path and it's given in the form of string. So let me give that within set of double quotes, and let me paste the path I copied from the properties of my file. Now it's pasted. In this location, my file pledge.txt is present. Now the name of the file is provided. At the same time, in Python, if you want to mention the name of the file, then the folders should be separated from the other folders, or the folder should be separated from other files by using double slash. If you want to avoid that, you can use a character R in front of that file name or file path to say to the compiler that this is a raw string. There is no special meaning for any of the characters in this string or in this path. After that, separated by a comma, I have to mention the mode in which I want to open the file. As we saw in this introduction, right, we have to open the file in read mode. So it's a specific mode, read mode I am mentioning here. But if I omit this, still the default mode is read mode only. If I omit this, still the default mode is read mode only. Now the file is opened in read mode, and this open function is returning a handle to my file. Now let me collect that handle in another variable, for example pledge handle. Now pledge handle is the handle to my file. So if I want to access my file in future, I can use this pledge handle. Now what's my motive is to read the content of this file by using read function. So how can I call read function? By using the pledge handle, that is the handle of my file, dot then read. So read is accepting the number of bytes I want to read from my file. So now I specified the number of bytes, okay, n, and actually I have to specify a particular number. For example, 12. I am reading 12 bytes from my file, and this read will read 12 bytes from my file and return that in a form of a string. So I can store it in a string variable. For example, string equal to then pledge dot handle dot read of 12. Now let me print this string. So print of string. Now if you run the code, you can see first 12 bytes. What are there in first 12 bytes? India is my. That is what there in the first 12 bytes. So that is read and it is stored into string, and I printed the string. If I missed this or if I omit this, then as I told you, by default the entire content of the file will be read and it will be returned back. Now you see the entire content of the file is read from the file pledge. So this is how read is behaving. Now what's next is, read is having a specific property. What is that is, when you are reading a content from your file, the read function will keep the cursor in the position next to the last read character. So it will, after reading the specific number of bytes, it will keep the cursor in the next byte. It will keep the cursor in the next byte, or otherwise it will keep the cursor next to the last read character in the previous read. Okay, and so if I do the read one more time, for example, in the same program or in the same file, if I read one more time, so pledge handle dot read of, pledge handle dot read of, then again let me read another 20 bytes on next 20 bytes. So it will return the next 20 bytes, and that is stored again into string. And let me print string one more time. So print string. Now if I run the code, you can see that the first read actually read the entire content. Okay, first read actually read the entire content. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me give for example 12 here. Okay, let me give 12 here, and now let me run the code again. Now first read actually read first 12 bytes. India is my is read by the first read. After that, the cursor was in the 13th byte, and when I was reading one more time, then the next read is starting from the 13th byte. So that's why the immediate next character, right, immediate next character from Y is actually displayed. So country dot then all Indians. The remaining 20 or the next 20 bytes are read from the file and returned. So this is what an important property of read. So it is always placing the cursor next to the last read character in the file. Now let us move to next content. But before that, I have one provision to avoid or to reduce the number of steps I use or number of statements I use to open the file first, then read the content of the file into single step. Right? I can reduce two steps, okay, to open a file first, then read the content from that file into a single step or in a single statement. Now this is the way, or this is the syntax of okay, clubbing two statements of opening and reading the file into a single statement. So open of, then the file path is to be mentioned. So this will return a handle. Then that handle can be directly used in the same statement to read the content of some number of bytes or the entire content of the file. Now what I do is, let me redo this code in that format. Instead of using a pledge handle variable, I am calling open, then it is returning the file handle, then I am using that file handle dot then read. Now what will happen is the entire entire file content is read, and in a single step it is done. That means the file is opened and it is read in a single step. Right, now let me run the code. Right, so if you run the code, yes, I didn't print the file content, right? So let me print the file content. So print of, then open of, then dot read. Now first the file will be opened, then the content will be read, and then it will be printed. Right, now let us see the content printed in the output screen. Now this is the way you can club two statements required to uh, read the file, sorry, open the file, then read the file, after that printing that into a single statement. Now let us move to the next content, that is readline method or readline function. So read is reading a particular number of bytes from the file. If you are omitting the number of bytes to be read, then it will read the entire file. But readline will read one line at a time from your file. Readline will read one line at a time from your file. And readline is called in this way, the file handle dot readline of, then the number of bytes. So from the current line, a particular number of bytes or a specified number of bytes will be retrieved and will be returned. Suppose if you omit this n, what will happen? If you omit this n, what will happen? Then the entire line will be read or retrieved and will be returned. Now let us have an example of that. Let me redefine the code again. Pledge handle equal to open up, then the file name. Then here again, let me come back to the original form of two statements. Right. Now here what I do is, let me call the readline method. So pledge handle dot readline. So readline will take again a limit. That means the number of bytes you want to read from the current line. For example, if I specify 12, again it will read only the 12 bytes from the first line, and it will return the bytes read from the current line into a form of string. So let me collect it in a string variable and print it. So print string. Now let me run the code again. So if you see, India is my, again first 12 bytes are retrieved and read, are returned. If I omit this 12, again what will happen? As I told you, it will read the entire line. So entire line, India is my country, is retrieved. And readline is reading forthcoming lines. Whenever you call readline, it will read the forthcoming lines or the upcoming lines, right? So for example, let me do the same process one more time. So string equal to pledge handle dot readline, and now let me print string again. So print of string. So first read line will read the first line, then second read line will read the second line. So it will go like that. And let me print the content. So if you see, first read line retrieved first line from the file, and second read line retrieved the second line from the line. So it will go till all the lines, okay, till the last line. This is what about the readline method to read the content from the file. And the last method provided is read lines. Read lines will read or retrieve all the lines from the file and return it in the form of a list. So it will return a list of lines from your file. Let me call read lines. For example, print of pledge handle dot read lines. So read lines is not having any compulsory parameter. Even if you want, you can mention the number of bytes. Otherwise, if you call read lines without parameter, it will read all the lines in the form of a list. That means it will return a list of lines from your file. Now let us run the code. If you check it, right, you can see it is returning a list of lines. So a set of lines or list of lines enclosed within set of square brackets. So in Python, if you are mentioning any set of elements separated by comma and mentioned within square brackets, then it is called list, right? Now here it is returning a list of lines available in your file, right? And every line is separated from next line by using a new line, right? So that's also mentioned here. This is the property of readlines. Now, is this are the three methods to retrieve the content from the file? No, we have one more way. We have one more way to retrieve the content from the file that is not of any specific method or specific function. It's just by using the for loop, right? So what is the syntax of reading or retrieving content from the file using for loop is, first open the file in read mode and get the handle. After that, this for loop will have a iterating variable and in operator. So in operator will extract the lines from the file one by one and using the file handle and place it in the iterating variable, and you can process the iterating variable later. This is what the way of reading the content of the file by using a file handle and for loop and in operator. Now what I do is, already file handle is available for my file pledge, so its name is pledge handle. Now let me let me use the for loop. So for, then let me use an iterating variable line in, then file handle, so it's pledge handle. So it will extract all the lines one by one from the line or pledge handle, and that is stored into line, and every time I can process this line. So let me print the line one time. Okay, so print of line. Very simple way to retrieve the lines one by one from the file using file handle. Now you see all the lines are retrieved and they are returned back, right? So this is the last way of, or last scheme to retrieve the file contents, right? So I hope that you understood how to use readlines or for loop and in operator to extract or read the content of a file and return it. So keep on watching the next videos. In the next video, we are going to discuss how to write something into a file. So happy programming. Thank you.